probably more like an hour 50, hour 45. We have for your pleasure a glitch showcase. So we're going to have this in several segments. So first of all, Glitches and Stuff and Ryaki are going to take you through, I guess, quite a broad description of how glitches are sought, like a few things that that have been found, and sort of discussion around the general glitch hunting scene strategy, as it were. Is that fair to say? Yeah. Cool. I got it right. It's brilliant. All right, good to start. That's going to go on for about sort of 50 minutes. They've got loads of stuff to show you, fantastic videos, whole really great variety of stuff. So everything from massive 3D games to Sonics and Marios and all that. And then following that, we're going to have your Croc Legend Puppet Master. He's going to be joined by a few guys from the Spyro community, and they're going to take you through sort of the general glitch hunting scene in those games. And then following that, yours truly and AMVX will be taking you through some stuff in the Arkham games, which will kind of segue nicely into the next run later this evening, which will be Arkham City. So all goes in there, all goes well. So yeah.
Yeah, it is, yes. The resolution itself is 720.
All right, so you guys are aware, Ryaka here has got a chat open, and he will be able to field, or they will be able to field some questions from you guys. So if you've got any sort of pertinent to glitch hunting, ask away, and obviously if it's appropriate, they'll try and add that in. So it should be good. All right. All right, so you guys good to go?
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. I'll leave you in their very capable hands. Okay. If you got a mic?
Yeah.
Even better then. So I just
Sorry. Cool.
Glitches and Stuff is number one.
He's the one who needs it.
All right, there you go.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the glitching talk that was in the schedule. It's a 2-hour slot, but we've got the first 50 minutes, as Robo's already said. I guess we've got lots of videos to show, so I guess we'll kind of speed through it a bit. So, use timer if you want.
Why not? We time everything.
Let's start timer. So, first of all, this obviously is a speedrunning marathon, and this is a talk about glitches. So, you're probably wondering why that is, and one of the main reasons is because glitches and speedrunning both go together quite well.
Yeah, they're kind of synonymous at this point.
And also, if you're into speedrunning, you've probably seen a lot of glitches anyway. If you've been watching runs in this marathon, you've most likely seen glitches in them. I'm going to show you some videos now of some pretty well-known glitches that hopefully a lot of you will know. This is the first one. It's known as the swing set glitch in GTA 4. And unfortunately, I haven't played all the games from the videos that I've got for you guys, but I hopefully understand most of them. So the idea is you drive a car into a swing set and it gets launched, basically.
Physics.
Yeah, game physics is always fun. The next one I've got is from Super Mario Bros. You'll notice the sliding through the wall thing here and getting to this area that you're not normally supposed to go to. And now pay attention to the world. -1 is the world, which normally you're not supposed to be able to get into minus worlds. That's not something that normally happens. And the third one, I'm sure you all know this one. I'm sure many of you have seen it before. It's a classic.
It's a classic.
The long loading time.
There it is.
level 146. Missing no. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen glitches. They've become pretty popular on the internet, and there are lots of videos of, you know, glitches that have got lots of views. But this is a speedrunning marathon, and we should probably talk about some speedrunning glitches.
Yeah,
there's
a lot of glitches that kind of are just fun, but don't have much use for speedrunning.
But I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. First of all, I should probably mention that I'm not a speedrunner. I don't ever really speedrun. I'm a glitcher. So I find glitches which hopefully can be used in speedruns to save time. Not all of them. A lot of them don't save time in speedruns, and a few of them have kind of screwed people over in runs because they thought it'd save time. But the idea is to find glitches in the speedrunning community. The idea is to find glitches that can make runs faster or better or more entertaining. So I'll just show you an example of a glitch that's used in a way that can make you go quickly. And what better example than Sonic, I guess. So this is Sonic Unleashed, and it's relatively well known for the fact that you can just kind of fly away if you go fast enough and know how to do it.
The basic idea of this is he starts by launching himself over a trigger that limits his speed, and it just means he can, well, do this, basically. This is actually an old route. There's a much faster route now, but it's still incredible. Even this one is amazing to see.
And it looks like he's back in the game properly now, and then...
and that lasts a bit.
But then, man, I thought it was sooner than this.
It's just up here.
But then all of a sudden...
But then that just continues.
Yeah, just keep running higher and higher.
And then, yeah.
But
it's good stuff.
That's the gist, really. So it's become quite a popular thing to watch speedruns because of the glitches that completely skip massive portions of the game and make them fast. And speaking of glitches that make you go fast, I guess, a really well-known example is in Super Mario 64. There's a glitch which I'm about to show you. It's quite a short clip, so you'll have to watch closely. It's called the backwards long jump, and you could just kind of it was quite hard to see there, but Mario just pretty much shot to the start of one of the levels ridiculously quickly. That's an example. This is from the 0-star task of the game. That's an example of how a game can just be made so short in a speedrun because of the glitches in it. I've got one more example of how a glitch could be used in a speedrun to speed it up. This is an airwalk glitch in Uncharted 2, and it pretty much allows you to skip a reasonably big chunk of this section of the game. Oh, I forgot to put the screen fade here, but so yeah, I mean, I was talking about the glitches used in speedruns because they're pretty cool, and you've probably seen them if you watched any runs in this marathon so far. But as a glitcher, I just like glitches in general, and I think a lot of other people should too, because
that's pretty much why I speedrun. If you've seen any of my games, that's a large portion of why I speedrun a game.
I mean, they're just fun to look at, they're fun to see, they're fun to do, and I don't know, sometimes when you see a glitch that's just absolutely crazy, you can't really explain it. Here's an example of a glitch called the black hole glitch in Super Smash Bros. Melee. I don't know if you can see very well, but jumping into that ball of peaches in the middle just completely destroys anything that goes inside it. Damage goes straight up to 999 for some reason. It's just crazy. And another video, it should be coming up if I've put this right. I found this one in Ocarina of Time. It's called Hookshot Mega Jump, and the idea is you die at the same time as hookshotting a high up object underwater, and he just kind of shoots up miles in the air. And he's in the dying animation as he's going up, and it takes the whole animation before he reaches the top of his fall, and you get a long fall back down. And I don't know. This is why I find glitches anyway. it's just cool to see something like this happen in a game. Like, a lot of the time you're not expecting it either. So, yeah, glitches are fun, even if they're not in speedruns. But I don't want to talk about, I mean, I know I've said this a few times already, but I want to talk more about speedrunning glitches, because I think a lot of people don't realize how glitches can fit into the speedrunning community. I think they see speedruns and they kind of just assume, or don't even really think about where the glitches have come from in the speedruns. So there are a few different words we use for the different kinds of glitches in speedruns. You've probably heard them if you've been around in the speedrunning scene for a while. There's things called sequence breaks. We have stuff called tricks, and there are other just generic glitches and shortcuts and various techniques. I'll show you an example of sequence breaking in
Oh yeah, this is my game, Rise of the Triads. You're supposed to enter this central room and do a bunch of kind of dumb puzzles, but you could just sort of rocket launch out. Unfortunately, they patched this out, which is a shame. But yeah, you can just run along the side and ignore everything. So you've got to go and collect a bunch of keys to open this door at the back, but you just run along the side.
We don't need to complete levels in speedruns.
No.
Another one is, after this finishes, because this video is quite near the end now. So this is just goes straight to the end of the level, I guess.
Yeah.
The next video that's going to be coming up in a few seconds is something that I found in a game which not many people have played. I like to play the obscure games that not many people have played, even though I mainly do Zelda games. This is called Legend of Kay, and there's a temple here which normally requires a huge, like, saving a bunch of frog sequence in the game to do, but you can just jump behind the door when it's not open and it'll load the area that you need to go to, and that skips a massive section of the game. It's kind of funny, a glitcher called Serpin found that. He's massively underrated as a glitcher. He was just kind of messing around in the area. He hadn't done the frogs bit because he hated it and he found it really annoying and he didn't want to do it. So he just kind of jumped behind and he happened to go in, and we weren't expecting it.
That does happen a lot. I have a clip I found in Buck Bumble, and I only found it because I hated the level, and I was like, the end of this level is the door right in front of me. There must be some way to go through it, and then I just tried a bunch of dumb stuff and found a clip.
That's generally, you see something and you think, that looks interesting, that might work.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll talk more about that in a minute, how you find glitches. This is the game The Last of Us, and it skips a small section. This is an example of like a shortcut, or like a small trick. What the player did there was go onto a door which is raising up before you're supposed to be able to, and normally that door falls down so you can't climb up here, but they jumped into it at first, which allowed them to grab onto it quickly and manage to get up, and that saves a few seconds. These generally are, you see them a lot in speedruns. They're not sequence breaks because they just save a few seconds in each area, whereas sequence breaks generally skip stuff or
skip like large segments,
yeah,
entire areas or something like that.
So that's an example of a trick. There are also movement techniques, because in a speedrun you want to go quickly, obviously, if you want to get a good time. So there are a few examples of movement techniques that make you go quicker. The first one's a really entertaining video in my opinion. This is Half-Life 2. This is a glitch called accelerated backhopping, I think.
Yeah,
and
it's
crazy.
crazy.
I don't know too much about it, but from what I've heard, you kind of got to crouch and turn around and or something.
The way that works is the game has a way of trying to slow you down when you exceed the speed limit, and the way to do that is to basically minus the speed of the direction you're going, so it sends you backwards. But if you're already going backwards, it just means it slowly increases the speed you're going at and
you
ignores
just go
the speed cap entirely.
Incredibly quickly. Here's another video from another popular game, I guess, Ocarina of Time.
I guess, a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean,
a couple of people played it.
Yeah, it's not a massive game. You might have played it or heard of it. This is a super slide, so all you need is a bomb, and you just kind of roll into it and grab it with your shield up, and you slide right across the map. It's quite useful for getting across places because it's a lot quicker than walking or any of the other methods of traveling, which I'm not going to talk about right now because there are so many. So those are movement techniques. In games, these are slightly less common in games, and they'll only generally exist in games where there's a lot of combat. But there are attacking techniques in games as well that generally make combat either quicker or easier or allow you to do it at a lower level where normally it would be ridiculously hard at that level. So here's a clip from Darksiders. This is called sword cancelling. Basically, the idea is you attack, the character's called War. War attacks with a sword, but then you cancel it immediately in the attack, which allows you to attack again. So you just get these ridiculously fast successive hits in, and you can kill anything extremely quickly. It's one of the speedrun of this game is actually quite fun. I like watching it, and a lot of the enemies are done like this, just sword cancelling and getting a lot of hits in. This kind of boss, I guess you could say it's a boss, it normally takes a lot longer if you don't have sword cancelling. This is a very, very quick fight here. I think this fight ends up being a minute long when it's normally supposed to be a lot longer. Yeah. So he's dead already there. And then, so the next thing I have is a game, again, not so popular. You might have seen it, I don't know. It's called Majora's Mask. This is a trick called ISG, and it stands for Infinite Sword Glitch. And you'll see, I paused it there, you'll see that like the sword is kind of glowing white a bit. It means that the hitbox of the sword is constantly active, so it will always be attacking. And that can be useful in defeating enemies. You'll notice that these enemies just run into you and they die because of the Infinite Sword Glitch. And that's used on some bosses. Sometimes it depends. Again, I'm not going to go into where it's used and where it isn't because it's quite a complicated game in terms of strats. So far we've done sequence breaking, shortcuts, movement techniques, and attacking techniques. There's not a finite number of these categories. These are just examples that I'm picking out that are kind of common in games. Another one which kind of fits under sequence breaking, I guess, is early items or item duplication. So there is this game again. I didn't want to put them two together, but in the end I had to. It's called bottle duplication. The idea is you show this guy your bottle and then pause before, your bottle has an item in it, you pause before you receive, you're selling the item to him, you pause before you receive the money for the item that you're selling to him, and then you replace the slot where the item was with something else, so that when he gives you the money and replaces your full bottle with an empty bottle, it replaces it over the item that you put there. It's kind of complicated, and I guess it probably only makes sense if you've played the game, but the idea is you can just keep duplicating bottles forever. Well, not forever, I mean you've got a limited amount of items, but the idea is it makes the speedrun a bit quicker because we get lots of bottles a lot earlier than we normally would. And then there's another example of an early item in a game called Shadow Complex, which is a very fun speedrun to watch, by the way. I recommend it. This is, I believe it's called Z sliding or Z sliding. It might not be. I may have got that wrong. Z sliding, yeah. Greenlink found it back there. The idea is there's this game. You go left and right in this game basically, and there was a glitch found by Greenlink which allows you to go forwards and backwards. The engine is a 3D engine, and therefore there are glitches which allow you to either go into the background or into the foreground a bit. And that means you can skip blocks that are in your way. Here there's like a block, you can't really see it very well, but behind the mound of grass there's a block that you normally can't get past. But you can just go a bit forwards and go around it if you know how to do the glitch. So that gets foam early, which in the any percent leads to a massive sequence break. But I mean, these are just examples of glitches, and there are loads of other ones and ones that don't fall into categories. I'm sure you've found
many.
Yeah.
kind of the idea is we put them into categories because it's easier to find glitches based on other glitches. But
Yeah.
there's plenty of times where we just find random stuff that doesn't seem to make much sense until you get it and slowly figure out how it works.
I mean, it's just kind of terms we use, I guess, but I guess these are some examples of glitches in speedruns. So it'd probably be a good idea to talk about how glitching works rather than just showing the glitches. So unfortunately there aren't as many videos for this bit, so bear with me. In general, there isn't really a glitching community or group yet. All the people who consider themselves all the people who consider themselves glitchers tend to kind of work in the speedrunning community. They mainly upload videos to YouTube and people see them. That may change in the future. There's, I guess, a shift more so now, or at least that I've experienced, there's a shift more so towards groups of glitches.
Yeah, definitely.
There are kind of Skype calls that happen now that are between glitchers who try and break games. But at the moment, it's really only within the speedrunning community. And in the speedrunning community, you don't just have three, but I mean, there are three groups which I'm going to talk about. You have the speedrunners, you have people who make the routes that the speedrunners use, and then there are the glitchers. And you can be all three. I mean, you're all three.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, but yeah, you suffer from being one or the other.
Well,
like I'm not as good a speedrunner because I prefer glitching games to speedrunning.
Yeah, it's kind of the reason why I didn't pick up speedrunning, because I'd find glitching a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And I play a game and I think, well, I could be breaking this game, not going quickly.
Well, it's one of those things of a lot of people will ask you how you find glitches, and they want to see you when you're streaming like glitch hunting. When they get in, they'll find that you've just spent the last hour like running into the same wall. Yeah. Because one time you saw that like your left arm clipped in for a second, so you're like, no, I can clip through this. I'll find a way.
That's pretty much how it goes. There are people who, I mean, it's quite common actually now. It didn't used to be. It's quite common now for people to find glitches and then route it and then speedrun it. But I mean, well, I guess the main thing is, what I'm trying to say is that glitching is an important part of speedrunning. It's not, I think it's probably the least, what's the word I'm looking for, the least understood or recognized part of speedruns, because people kind of, I think, take the glitches for granted sometimes. But glitching does add a lot to speedruns, because even if it's something that makes the speedrun faster, then that's great. Speedrunners love that, viewers love that.
Yeah.
And that really helps, and there are lots of examples that I've already showed you where that is the case. And also, even if they're not useful, people who are following you generally are linked in with the speedrunning community anyway. So if you upload a really wacky glitch that everyone can enjoy, then it's going to hype up the game a bit, and so people are going to probably be watching the speedruns a bit more. If there's a new glitch found, even if it's not useful, people are going to get more interest in the game that it's found in again.
And the glitch itself doesn't necessarily have to be the glitch that finds the save of time, because it can just lead to other things, because it gives you more options. And
yeah, there are plenty of examples of glitches that have been found that for a long, long time have been completely useless, but then someone's added one thing to it and it's just become this huge skip or something. So even non-speedrun glitches are useful.
Someone's asking us if we're going to show any Winx Club.
Unfortunately, there are no Winx Club videos, sorry.
You should watch the TAS of Winx Club.
There is a TAS. Something that both of us do best is be interested in really bad games, because they're usually glitchable.
Yeah. I frequently buy like games that are like £1 because I know they're going to be terrible and probably easy to break.
And Winx Club is no exception.
No,
so I guess that's all I'll say about the glitching within the speedrunning community, and I guess I'll go into how glitches are found and how glitches kind of do what they do. First of all, you kind of there are different things that you can work towards. There are different kinds of glitches, and some of them are harder than others. So, for example, memory corruption in games is one of the hardest glitches to find, because it's not something that you can just kind of do anywhere. It's usually very spot specific, and you usually have to know, well, I say you usually have to know what you're doing, but a lot of the time it just happens. I've got a video to show you here from, again, Serpin, the guy who I mentioned earlier. He found a memory corruption thing in Pokemon Generation 1 that not many people know about. His video's got like 50 views or something. There are glitch moves in this game, and if you teach 2 glitch moves to a Pokemon on the bottom slot, and then replace the very bottom one with a real move, then you'll see what's about to happen. There's a random poison effect, there's Pokemon that don't exist that are fainting, you got random music that doesn't make sense, and tiles everywhere, text that doesn't make sense. And again, more random house tiles in the middle of the water for some reason. There's some numbers up there, don't know why. Memory corruption's pretty cool. I enjoy it a lot. And you guys should follow Serpin on YouTube, by the way, because he's a great glitcher. His YouTube is Medibisu, which is, well, how's it spelled?
Medibisu. He likes to go by a bunch of names just to confuse us all.
He's a very underrated glitcher. Finds crazy stuff like that. So there's that, and there's also movement glitches, which are kind of, I would say they're on the opposite end of the spectrum. They're quite easy to find, but in some games you can just not find anything. It depends how well the game's programmed.
It tends to be, if you have more options for movement, the easier it is to find movement-based glitches.
But I mean, the method behind finding movement glitches is a lot different to the method behind finding memory corruption or manipulation glitches. I'll show you an example of a video now of a movement glitch. This is called uppercut cancelling in Beautiful Joe. And the idea is you can't see it very well, unfortunately, but the idea is that you do the uppercut attack and then cancel it instantly with another button, a bit like how the Darksiders thing worked. But you get a bit of distance from the uppercut move, so you can just keep doing that again and again and again, and he'll shoot across the floor. So there's an example of a glitch where someone, I think that one was found by Rockmox, I think this is an example of a glitch where you notice that a move can be interrupted, and then you think, what if I just keep doing that over and over again? And you notice that you get huge speed from that. There's another video from Darksiders which I can show you, is another movement technique. It's called Infinite Jump. It features a lot in the 90% speedrun. It's only a short clip there, but basically you kind of get a grounded state in the air, so you can jump again, and you keep doing that over and over and over again. There is another there's another kind of glitch which people, especially in the speedrunning community, don't tend to do much, because a lot of the time it's banned, or just people don't really agree with it very much, but I'm going to show it anyway. It's hardware manipulation, so glitches that you can do as a result of fiddling with your console in some way. So I mean, I've only got one example here, but this is GoldenEye, and this is an example of cartridge tilting in GoldenEye. And yeah, you get a weird sound. What the idea is, you tilt out one side of your cartridge, and kind of this happens. They don't really know what to do anymore. They just start dancing around. So that's always fun. But I mean, that's an example of something that not many glitches will go for. There's another example in Twilight Princess where you take out your CD and put it in again before you load an area, and the area just doesn't load, and you can walk around in the air. That's called CD streaming. So mainly they happen as a result of doing something with the game disc or cart, or you tilt it to the side, or you take it out and put it back in again so that they can't read it in time. Generally people don't tend to do that these days, especially as a lot of people use cheaty emulators, which of course none of us use.
No one can possibly agree with such a thing.
And you can't do that sort of thing on emulator. There's another kind of glitch where there's a specific spot. It's not something you can just do anywhere, there's a specific thing in a spot that you see and you think, I want to skip that. A bit like your Buck Bumble stuff that you talked about earlier with the door in front of you. Here's another door which you can go straight through.
That's great.
Shout outs to Cerberus Guns for making this video for me really quickly before I got to Sweden. It's an Ape Escape 3 glitch where you can just sort of clip through doors. I mean, it's not any door, it's spot specific is the point. There's like there's a small gap in between. It's something to do with going behind one invisible wall and then going through a gap. It's just, generally if you just play around with walls, you notice things and you think, I might be able to clip in that one spot. And a lot of the time it works. So that's good as well. And there's another kind which is not in any way useful in speedruns, but a lot of people like to show them off because they're funny. And that's crashes and soft locks and things like that. These crop up a lot when you're glitch hunting. Here's a glitch that Rocky found again. The idea is, well, I guess you can explain.
So the game's really well coded. So they have this spot where there it is. They have this spot where the camera clips out of bounds, and because the camera's out of bounds, it starts deloading the map. But because you're in the middle of doing this cutscene, you basically get stuck inside whilst the entire map's despawned. So that thing that the rabbit's in is no longer exists in the map. But I've kind of become part of it, so the game just has no idea what to do and just crashes.
And am I right in saying that in that video you didn't know that would happen
when
you did that?
No, I did not. I was just seeing what would happen when I tried, and it crashed the game.
That's kind of what happens a lot. That's a great example of glitches being found as well. Yeah. Just unloading the map while you do something, and then suddenly something happens, and you're like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that. There's another soft locked here in a game. Oh yeah, Banjo-Tooie. So the idea is your character slides into a loading zone as you fire a clockwork egg, which makes a little robot thing. So you're in the loading zone right now, and your little clockwork thing isn't. And when that explodes, it goes back to your character. And he's in a loading zone though, so in the next map he just won't spawn. And so the camera has nothing to focus on. It just goes above a map and stays like that forever. It's kind of weird why it happens. I'm surprised it doesn't just crash, to be honest, but I guess games have ways of handling stuff like that. Another example is collision and hitbox things. Generally you notice that something doesn't quite hit you correctly, or some part of your character can clip through something, and then you just go for it. I don't have any videos to show that because I couldn't find any, unfortunately. And then there's also graphical glitches, which are very, very common. There are things that you see all the time, like camera clipping through the wall, or a texture in a wall being on top of another texture that's not supposed to. I'm going to show you an extreme of a graphical glitch that is quite obvious to notice, I think. So this is the fog glitch in Ocarina of Time, and it's where you get a certain weather in the wrong place, basically, and it makes this ridiculously crazy fog effect all around you. It's pretty... I kind of wonder what the people who first found this were like when they saw this, because especially, I mean, that's crazy. So you can't really see much. Basically the graphics are just really confused right now. There's random blue everywhere that disappears. You can see through walls. The random stage lights that appear and disappear. Yeah, it's crazy. And each area you go in has a different colour, usually. I mean, there might be some areas with two of the same colour, but the Lost Woods is clearly a very broken one. You can see through Link. For some reason, being underwater, you don't notice it. It goes normal when you're underwater. And then when you get up to the top again, oh, everything's blue, and the waterfall's yellow. So
We got a question from Deltamon.
Okay.
He was basically asking us whether there are other types of glitches that people generally don't like using in actual runs, so like the hardware stuff and like stuff that skips the whole game.
Yeah, okay, so I showed you an example of backwards long jumping, which is using the 0-star TAS of the game. I mean, one, it's very difficult to do on console anyway.
Yeah.
But, I mean, most people feel like it's not very fun to play through the game without getting any stars or do any of the cool tricks that you see in the actual levels of the game, which is supposed to be the main part of the game. So, I mean, the main categories of games kind of adjust depending on what people want to see. If there are glitches that do skip the whole game, then sometimes a lot of people won't be interested in that. There are examples from some of the 2D Zelda games as well, like Link's Awakening and A Link to the Past. You can go to the end of those games very quickly, but most people don't do those in speedruns.
And the only other thing is, I think, kind of the early days of a glitch being found and it being really tough. A lot of people have, it happens less and less now because people are more kind of happy to do it or more used to doing it. But when it's first done, they're like, oh, that trick's way too hard. I'd never do it in a single segment run. And then they just sort of end up grinding out a little bit and they're just like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. Even though it's like a bunch of frame perfect tricks, I can just do that in a single segment
I mean, it's
run.
fun to do, but a lot of the time people get bored of big tricks that skip a lot of the...
Yeah.
So I guess I should probably quickly move on to how glitches are actually found, the actual method behind it, because one of the biggest questions you see in chats when someone does a glitch is, how did someone even find this? And usually there's quite a reasonable method behind how something was found, or
an exceptionally dumb one.
Yeah, or an
It's
exceptionally dumb one. The first one that happens quite a lot, surprisingly, is just pure luck. You have a lot of people playing a game, or a lot of speedrunners speedrunning a game, and they do something that is quite unlikely, but because there are so many people doing it, it happens once, and something crazy happens. This generally starts off a lot of video games. There'll be 1 or 2 videos on YouTube when a game comes out of someone just randomly stumbling onto a glitch, unless the game's very well done or doesn't have much breakable things in it. And then there are also those those glitches that people kind of stumble into by accident and then can't ever recreate. And we don't get many videos of those because not many people record when they're doing it, but occasionally you do. And here's an example of one of them. This is Shadow Complex. Again, you just randomly warp up to there when you're using the grapple. Don't really know why. No one knows why. Can't recreate it. But it was cool. You can shoot from hanging up there. Never been able to recreate that. There's also another example called the Mega Eno glitch. And basically, the Enos are those snow enemies, and they're supposed to morph together, but they're not supposed to become huge like this. They're not supposed to grow to the entire size of the map. I mean, I don't know for sure if they intended this, but I'm pretty sure that they wouldn't intend an enemy that grows to the whole size of the map. And we've never been able to recreate this. And if you can hear any, if you can hear the audio, it's just the streamer going crazy, index stick. But unfortunately the audio is quite low, so you probably won't be able to hear. Yeah, it just grows forever and ever. Eventually if you go too far away it unloads, but you can load it back again. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And it's still one of my favorite glitch videos of all time. Possibly because of the reactions. You can find that on YouTube and be able to listen to the full audio if you type in Mega Eno on YouTube, which is Eno spelled E-E-N-O. So that's method 1. Method 2 and 3 are kind of what glitches mainly do. The second one is to find a glitch for a speedrun. So you watch a speedrun and you look at a specific thing and you think, I want to skip that, or I want to find glitches for that to make this bit a lot cooler, or something along those lines. And so if there's a tough boss or something you just don't want to do, we've talked about this a bit already. There's a video here, an example, called Borax Skip in Legend of K, that obscure game that I want to start glitching a lot more soon.
We'll bring it back. We'll make a run of it.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Someone will run it, I'm sure, if I just break it enough. So there's a boss fight here, and no one wanted to do the boss fight because fights are really annoying in this game. So we just found a way to skip it using platforming. You just go out of bounds. It spent ages trying to find this, but eventually we did. So that's kind of, I'll skip along with this a little bit. That's kind of the concept. The video is quite long, so maybe I should have cut out some of that. But you get to the next area early without doing the boss. The third way is my favorite way of finding glitches, which is you just mess around in the game, really. Like, you see something in the game, maybe, and you think, that looks like something I could break apart, maybe. Or, I wonder what happens if I, do this action there, and then from there, craziness ensues. Things happen that aren't supposed to happen.
The thing is, I think a lot of the time with glitches like that, it comes down to knowing a lot of other glitches. Like, the best example I have of that is when Rockmox was playing a Neopets game. Almost the first thing he found was a weird double jump, because when he spoke to someone and accidentally jumped, he saw immediately that it gave him a grounded state and was like, oh, I know what that means. That means I could double jump. And with that, within I think about, was it 10, 15 minutes of playing the game, he got out of bounds and like skipped a lot of the game.
It's kind of tough though when you don't already know the game beforehand.
Yeah.
Although it's kind of boring to play through the game normally when you know that you can probably break it apart.
That's the problem with Rockmox. He glitches games too quickly and just doesn't bother playing them.
So we're nearing the end now, but I mean, I've got a few more things to talk about with how glitches are found. For the methods that I was just speaking about there, for the third method, which is just messing around and seeing what happens, usually happens when there's a known glitch that happens. Usually someone has stumbled upon it just randomly and there's a video on YouTube and you check it out and you try it out for yourself. And then as you're trying it out, you notice something else and you think, I could abuse that or I could do something with that. Here's an example. It's terrible quality video. I apologize. It was recorded on a camera, so sorry everyone. You might not be able to see properly. It's Akami. There's a clip there into the stairs which lets you get out of bounds. It was like one of the only glitches in the game, and I was just messing around with it and jumped off one of the ways and fell what I thought was to my death, but then eventually I just landed in a random room that was under the map, which actually ended up saving about 30 seconds in the speedrun. So that's an example of just messing around and finding something. A lot of the time it happens. It's quite a good one for those who want to find glitches but don't know how to. Just mess around with stuff that already exists. You're bound to find something.
Yeah.
A lot of people just think, oh, I won't try that out. It's already been found or it's already been fully tested. But you can do a lot by just showing off glitches.
Hasn't, depending on what game it is.
Yeah.
You can tend to find that just a fresh mind on a glitch that already exists means you'll just test it in a way that they never thought of.
And it's one of the reasons why you see a lot of new finds in marathons like this one. People do glitch showcases or they have donation incentives to do things that they wouldn't normally do, and something weird happens that doesn't normally happen and they're like, that shouldn't happen. I mean, I can think of lots of examples from marathons where stuff like that has happened. Again, with the second method that I was talking about finding glitches, which is finding them specifically for a speedrun, this is one I found, which is an Ocarina of Time glitch that skips the majority of the final tower of the game, tower collapse. It's called Void Warp. And I was just messing around there. I thought, there's got to be a way to skip this tower. And funnily enough, there was. I did a random hover off some rocks, which is another glitch, which I'm not going to go into now if you don't already know it. But the idea is, you're at the top of the tower here in this clip, and in a minute, you'll be falling right to the bottom of the tower. So that skips a massive portion, and I was really surprised that I got that, but it only happened because I thought I might be able to find something like that. I've got one more thing to say about finding glitches, and then I'll hand you over to the next person. There is quite a common thing that happens in glitching, and especially when they're applied to speedruns, where it's kind of like you find a glitch, or someone finds a glitch, and then someone applies that glitch to something or adds something onto it, and then suddenly you can do a lot more with it, and then you might be able to apply that to another thing, and you can do a lot more with that. And so it becomes like a chain of glitches that happen. So I'm going to attempt to show you one of these chains right now in videos. It's from Majora's Mask. Unfortunately, I tried to do a less well-known game, but it's my main game really, so I knew it quite well.
I mean, it's like the best game to show how just it's progressed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, either that or OT. They've just got so many like progressions of glitches.
It's probably one of the reasons why they're quite popular games. But this was the first thing found. It's a glitch called ISG. I already showed you it earlier. It's the infinite sword glitch. So you just get your sword swinging forever, and we already know that that's useful for fights. But eventually, someone realized that while you have it active, you can't actually walk off ledges. He just kind of stops. He doesn't even jump. You can side hop and backflip, but it doesn't change anything. Whoops. Whoa. Let's get back to there. So you'll notice that you try and jump off, and he just doesn't jump. That had been around for a while actually, like a year I think. And then all of a sudden, someone was messing around in the game, backflipped into an enemy with their shield up, and they noticed that if you have the glitch ISG active and then you shield some damage, you can just fly in the air, and suddenly that skipped massive sections of the game. That was used a lot still in Majora's Mask speedruns, even though that was found years and years ago. And then eventually people came along and realized that you can use this hovering to skip big sections of the game. So that's the glitch itself, and people thought it was shortcuts with it. And then someone realized, what if I use this to get right to the end of a dungeon, so I don't need to do any of it? And they apply knowledge that they already have. So there's a clip glitch, which isn't related to the ISG glitch, but it's kind of something that they picked up elsewhere. And they also use the knowledge of the fact that behind, the bit that loads the boss room of a dungeon is always there, no matter what room you're in. So you can just use this hovering glitch to go all the way back there and get straight into the loading zone. I'm going to move it on a little bit, because this is just hovering for the whole time, and I'm sure you've seen this. And so eventually they side hop into it, and just to show it, this skips the whole thing. So this skips the whole dungeon. So that's an example of how you find one, or someone finds one glitch, it leads to another glitch, leads to another glitch, leads to another glitch, and suddenly the game's broken. And that's a lot of the time how it works. That's pretty much all I have to say. I kind of rushed through that a little bit. So, I mean, if we've got time, and there are a few chat questions.
Sort of running low. I mean,
yeah, that's fine then. Yeah.
We set up and ready to go.
No, it takes like 5 minutes.
Just switching over the stuff.
Yeah, we just got to plug in the laptop.
Okay.
Play videos off that.
Cool.
So I guess I'll say thanks to a few people who made videos for me last minute and just helped out. Iraqi here, Akeon, Serb, who's back there, Angravol, and Serpin, the guy who I keep shouting out, who you should really follow on YouTube because he's an amazing glitcher, best I know. So yeah, thanks guys.
Cheers.
Cool. It's got videos on it as well. So
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
is that part of that?
Yeah. I'll pause it. I'm gonna. You want me on left or you want?
Sorry?
Do you want this one?
Yeah, I'll get
Just check what mic number you grabbed. Just check what mic number you grabbed. And that's why we don't put them in glasses, people. Okay, so although everybody else is leaving, we don't care because we're going to continue on with glitches. Chat, let me know if you can't hear if I'm talking.
history of this and sort of what's happening.
Is your run after that?
They've got the melee tournament finals,
Oh, right.
and then up into the league.
Is it now a recap?
No,
No, I think they're doing a short recap between this and the gig. Flicky knows,
Because Otto
and
preparing-
all I know is that I don't need to know.
alright.
Oh, well that's an issue.
Why is it?
Component splitter uses an American plug.
Oh, what?
Does someone want to run out, see if an American person has...
I have
What's that adapter?
one here, but I kind of need it for practice.
Sorry?
I kind of need this for practice, so I need it back. Like,
Power supply.
what?
Was it?
It's
Well,
a
12 volt.
converter. I don't know. This is an American converter. I think.
Oh, sick. Okay, that'll do.
Is it just for this?
Yeah, just
Okay.
well, just while they're playing on the Xbox.
I guess in that case.
Okay, even though I know...
No, we'll just spend the whole time. So, are we
Where?
the mic's on then?
I've just turned my mic on. So even though I know that the screen doesn't look right, we'll start talking anyway. So just to preface in, a lot of these games that were just being talked about were obviously fairly classic games, shall we say. But even some classic games are having new skips found. For example, Majora's Mask actually had a skip, Warp skip found not too long ago. And new games such as Tomb Raider, which if you're watching last night, I believe it was, not last night, night before, I can't remember.
Last night, I think, although my days and nights have all confounded.
Yeah, it's all gone, it's the same thing. If anyone saw the Tomb Raider, or if you haven't seen it, go watch it. That game is just filled with glitches. It's just broken from the get-go. So a lot of the old games are still having glitches found, and a lot of the new games, although they look more polished, they're just as broken. There's actually more things to break in the new games. So although we could be here till Kingdom Come talking about glitches in games and how they come along, we're going to focus solely on one series, which is the series that you know very well.
Yes.
I know relatively well, I'd like to argue,
okay.
but
I wouldn't argue against it.
yes. So we're looking at the Batman Arkham games, and the other thing about all of these other games is they all run off different engines. They all run from different developers. These are relatively from the same developer, but they're all running the same engine and the same basic code. So,
Yeah, so
Would you like to
essentially what
lead us
that
off?
means is a lot of stuff that kind of recurs in one game, recurs in all of them. And the biggest thing here is the sort of chapter story system. And that kind of limits what you can skip, but it also gives out some interesting effects, not necessarily from a speedrunning perspective, but it also shows off some other cool effects that can happen. Now, one of the things we are going to show is, like, I guess, sort of the biggest skip of Arkham Asylum, which is where we're going to start. And this is one of those glitches that is found sort of by, I guess, almost like brute forcing away, wouldn't you say?
yeah, this skip is actually a fairly recent one in terms of the lifespan of the game, because the game was 2009, and this skip was only really sort of heavily pushed this year, and the skip was only heavily pushed this year, and it was only really sort of discovered last year. But nobody really think that they could make much of it. So a couple of runners in the Batman community decided to mess around, see if they could find different points to throw the Batarang at, and to see if we could cut the rope of this clock of the bell on the clock tower.
Yeah. So our target is this bell rope. Now, those of you who know the game will know that after the second Scarecrow bit segments, the second Scarecrow nightmare, you kind of wake up above that floor. No idea how you actually get in there, but that's sort of gloss over that. And the only way to get out is
Batman.
to cut. Yeah, it's Batman. The only way out is to cut the rope that holds this bell up and cause a massive crash. Now, obviously, it would be nice if you can cut the rope early. You guys can see that, but there's an invisible wall there which sort of stops you from doing that. However, there are not really any invisible walls in the floorboards, and the only barrier then is the size and shape of your Batarang and trying to get it through. Now, there's a very dedicated runner called Direbuck who spent a lot of time, as far as I'm aware, is basically throwing Batarangs into holes and seeing what went through. And he found this hole, and it is quite clearly the biggest hole in there, so obviously the first one you start with.
He's putting objects in holes. It's a favourite pastime of his.
Yeah. And it's discovered that, yeah, and using the action cam on the Batarang, you can see that it does go through, and it still exists sort of afterwards. So what you can do then is you throw a remote control Batarang, then once it's through you can actually fly it around. Now the remote control Batarangs in this game handle like arse, but it is possible with practice to actually get the Batarang through that hole and fly it all the way around and hit the rope on the bell.
So this skip effectively cuts out about 20 minutes.
Probably 10 to 12.
About 10 actually, yeah, of the run, and one of the big parts of that is this horrible long unskippable interactive cutscene, if you will, where you have to walk down a corridor and you can't run, you can't do anything else, you just have to walk. And it gets very boring, very stale, and it was nice that this cut that entire section out. It means you can effectively just keep going without having to slow down. It also means that you have to be a little bit more focused and be very attentive to what you're doing a little bit more.
So with this, I found this one particularly difficult, and one of the reasons I use a controller, and the thing is as I said, the remote control Batarangs handle like absolute arse. So I wasn't the only one who felt this, and there's another chap called Honourable J who runs this on PC. He also is very dissatisfied with with this and found a different hole to throw Batarangs through, which kind of makes it a bit easier, certainly a bit more possible to try and get us lined up. It's actually difficult to see with the bloody sun on the screen, I have to say.
Yes, sorry, Planks. Is there any chance of getting the window closed, mate? Yeah. Because that's actually, I'm having trouble seeing that. Oh. Anyway, so even though the actual gap in between the planks is a lot smaller, you'll notice that when Robo was trying to do it before, he had to go through 2 different sets of support beams and make sure they didn't hit that on the way through. Whereas now you don't have any support beams in your way, you have a clean run to the rope. And this is one of the glitches when the guys were talking about before that was effectively found because people were going, hey, I wonder if I can do that, because we know we've been able to do sort of similar things in Arkham City, and then people pushed a little bit more in Arkham Asylum, and all of a sudden we went, ooh, we can do that. So people started testing it, and it's become a forced glitch. This wasn't directly discovered by accident in itself. It was taken from another glitch and adapted. There it is there. Beautiful done.
Yeah. Only 12 attempts.
It's not the speed button. So don't worry, it took me 40 minutes my first time out when I was trying to get it with the old way. So you shouldn't be able to get through this door all of a sudden. Hey,
new objective.
New objective, you can just go straight through the door, because that is what the game sees as a trigger when the bell falls, not when everything else happens. Now Robo's lovely, thankfully gone through and made a whole big bunch of save games for all of this. Ollie JS, the bell skip is the worst thing ever. Ollie, I'm going to disagree with you there. Alright.
There we go, fact.
Fact.
So, I mean, what that does is, because of the way the game is structured, for a large part of it, it doesn't really affect the actual sort of gameplay. What it means is that it sort of locks off certain areas because there's a room that you have to save a hostage in. Because you haven't saved the hostage, you can't go through the room. But because you've already done that section of the mansion, you can't actually rescue any hostages because there's nobody to rescue, so you're kind of stuck in that room. And a few sort of little things like that where the game just gets really confused. And all it means really in terms of actual speedrunning of the game is different categories where you would need to go through that. So 100% being the example here. If you're doing a 100% run, you have to sort of bear those things in mind. And there are also sort of other effects which are a lot more cosmetic but no less enjoyable. And this is sort of one of the joys I find in speedrunning, because people try to break games. And a lot of people try to break games purely for the sake of making them faster. And I really like it when people break games and just make them more fun. And this is a great example of that.
They're always good. I mean, there's a couple of games where you literally will break it just by going too fast, which if they watch your Arkham City run later on, they will more than happily see a couple of glitches like that.
Yeah. So this is the chandelier that many of you recognise. You break the rope and it falls down and it crashes through the glass at the bottom. Obviously the glass wasn't broken, so if we throw the Batarang now, all that happens, absolutely nothing. I mean, there's just quite a few effects like this where you can kind of glitch into walls. Another good effect is just the grates there. Doesn't really affect anything.
I love the physics.
But the things with the physics is like the grates are really good because it gives you something to do during downtime. And this is sort of one of the deals, is if you can find something fun to do during your downtime, like playing with grates, and it just kind of makes the whole process a lot more enjoyable.
Batman does have telekinetic powers.
Yeah, it's just not bothered. It's
Exactly.
not trying at all.
Just blank.
I mean, one of the methods that have Diebug's been attempting to, mainly Diebug, and there's sort of quite a few people to a certain extent, but Diebug mainly, is to try and find ways, I guess sort of find a goal in order to get there. So a lot of, just create glitches, create skips for the hell of it, and then see what you can do with them. He's sort of gone the other way, seeing what would be a possible glitch using the story system, and then sort of trying to actually implement that. So the one he's done there is actually try to break into the final Joker fight early and sort of beat it. And what he found was that even if you did get into the Joker fight early, which is kind of possible on PC, maybe, we're not sure yet.
It's quite tricky to pull off.
Yeah. Like certainly none of us have managed it, except Diebug that one time. Oh.
They can't hear you over the clang, clang, clang.
Oh, they really can't?
Yes. Apparently it's making it a bit hard, but yes.
So, I mean, what he's done is essentially used cheats on PC in order to get into that boss fight and get through. And what he found is that beating the final boss doesn't actually beat the game for you. You still have to beat other story triggers. And while that's not really useful in terms of speedrunning, it does kind of give us a bit more of an insight in terms of how the games are made and, what would be a potential skip and how that would work, and sort of more clues as to where to look for sort of future breaks in games. Yeah, I think that's sort of the key thing really. So I mean that's sort of it for Asylum. Asylum is the least broken of the three games.
They had the most time to develop it, and they took the most care with it.
And to a certain extent, Batman's movements are more restricted. And what we're going to find when we go into City and Asylum is that a lot of the glitches that are possible because of Batman's gliding mechanic, because of his grappling mechanic, and how those are changed. And
this is where, sorry, Flanks, can you just turn down game audio just a bit, mate? Just because people are having trouble hearing us.
Just because we don't need it.
So when the bigger the game you make, effectively, the more things that you've got to bug test and you've got to sort of cover in Q&A, and eventually there is only so much that you can cover, there's only so much that you can fix. Donkey Kong 64 actually had one bug which they could not fix, and that's why they had to ship with every game with the Rumble Pack.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't figure it out, and they went, well, it doesn't happen when you have the Rumble Pack. So what's going to be more cost effective? Send it with a Rumble Pack. Yeah, the expansion pack. That's the one. With the expansion pack. Or actually keep on paying for people to find where this bug is. So they just shipped it with the expansion pack.
Took the loss.
Yeah, well, they didn't end up losing money. They ended up making
I thought they ended up costing
it cost them money to get the original purchase, but they made the money back in the long run.
Business decisions, eh?
Yeah, I'm seeing Donkey Kong 64. Yes, if you've ever seen a speedrun of it, it is a very broken game.
Yeah. Hilariously broken. Go and watch one. Not right now.
The same as if you watch the Deus Ex Human Revolution speedrun very early this morning. Go back and watch the VOD. It was a great run, and he did a very good time on it. But you can see that game as well is just filled with out of bounds skips. which people just test and keep pushing. However, we're focusing on now City.
Okay.
Arkham City.
So, I mean, a lot of stuff because I found quite a lot of stuff in Arkham City, and other people found a lot of stuff, and a lot of what has been found has been, I guess, sort of generally relatively well-known glitches. There are, I think glitches and stuff we're talking about finds like this before, where this is the wrong area. It should be the steel mill. The wrong sort of area. So I get that loaded. Right. And there's just been that kind of glitch that, oh yeah, no, this is a humorous effect. And then other people going, well, let's see what we can use that for. And a lot of the skips, and I think pretty much everything that I found for City has been something that I've seen someone else doing. Oh, I wonder if that is useful in a speed run. So probably the first, I think I want to say the first big sort of breaking glitch found for this game was something called the freeze hover. And what that is, I'll just show you in Steel Mill. So if you stand on any kind of ledge,
You get out of the smelting chamber, B-man. What did you
no problem with
build?
that. If you can stand on any kind of ledge and you go to the end of the ledge and you start spamming the ice grenades. This is a New Game Plus game, by the way, which is why I've got the freeze grenades here. Is you just rise and you just keep hovering up.
Done. Scram, B-man.
See if you can hit Harley.
Coming, Mr. J.
Nope. Missed.
Almost.
Yeah,
So
almost.
close.
And in a speedrun, it's actually not useful except in New Game Plus for one sort of area, sort of at the beginning of the game. And it's not even like because it's that kind of effect, but I guess there is a skip you can do a bit later on in the game, but there is another way to do that skip which is faster, ironically.
And
this is,
I'd argue more effective as well.
yeah, exactly. And this is this fight. So normally you have the sort of the Mr. Hammer fight at the end of Steel Mill 1. So you basically use this glitch, and essentially what I was trying to do with Harley before. Now, because this thing is open, there isn't a trigger to actually grapple up there until after you win the fight. But you can just glide in there now using the hover.
Actually, while I think on it, in Origins, do you have a save file near the back of the church? You know, the one with the casino billboard on top of it? The building there. Actually, no, don't worry about it. I'll just explain it when we get to Origins. When we get to Origins.
So
Sorry.
it's stuff like that. So I mean, a lot of videos you'll see of the freeze hover glitch in action is just people using it outside and just, oh, we can go outside the city walls now because we've got outside the trigger that normally keeps you inside. And yeah, it's just sort of things really just funny. Well, what can you do if you can hover everywhere else? Because there's lots of places that you can use that, but just because the general structure, because for the most part it is a very well built game that you just, yeah, there's not really places that you can squeeze through necessarily. I mean, that is also useful for going out of bounds in the Steel Mill area, which again, not useful in terms of a speed run, but is like a lot of fun to do just in terms of general exploration of the architecture.
Yeah. Sometimes you just do it just to go, oh, I wonder where this goes.
Yeah.
Or like Robo said, sometimes it's just fun.
Yeah.
And we have a question here. At what point does a glitch become broken, so broken that you have to put it in a glitch percent category instead of a regular run? That really comes down to the community that run the games. If you look at something like the Ocarina of Time, there's 50,000 different categories. There's regular any percent with no glitches. There's 100% with no glitches. There's any percent no rung warps. There's 100% no rung warps. There's no RBAs. There's child dungeons. There's all sorts of different categories. Whereas, for example, I will use Asylum here.
Yeah.
Our any percent is you're allowed to use bell skip. You go nuts. If you choose not to use it, you're at a slight disadvantage. If you run Arkham City and you choose not to go under the map and you choose not to effectively skip certain portions of it, then you're not doing it. You're not doing it as fast as you can. And for us, that is just any percent. We don't define a glitched percent. It's either any percent or 100%. That's the only two categories that these games get run in.
This again is an example of a glitch that is something that's been found on YouTube, and we have recently found a use for it in the speedrun, although it's only really useful on some consoles. It's actually not that useful on Xbox because I've found a fast way of doing it, and also because the glitch itself isn't consistent on Xbox. This is what's called the corner cover warp, and it's something again exclusive to City. For whatever reason, if you go into corner cover behind anything, you throw a remote batarang and you catch it, and then throw anything at all. So you've got your choice. You can throw a batarang, a sonic batarang. You can fire the rec gun. You can fire a remote batarang. You can fire a smoke pellet. Anything that you can launch, really. So now that you can, it does weird effects. So this one just kind of, it just warps you out. And what I'm going to do is I've picked the spot next to sort of Ivy's lair because it gives the most fun effect, I'd say. If it works.
It's just like a cannon. It's just so
I know.
good. So
nobody's figured out why this works.
And this is when I was talking before about the same engines. A very similar sort of instance happens in because somebody is actually mentioning the very same radio tower that comes into question with this glitch. You can wedge yourself in between a pipe and a wall just near the radio tower, and because the game doesn't know what to do with you, it just shoots you up in the air exactly how you're seeing right now. You just get launched. So when, in the glitch that you're talking about there, until they actually patched it, which took them a little longer than we would anticipate, that's a different matter, you would go to climb into the tower, Batman's hands, oh, there's the out of bounds.
So this is where I am on the map.
And we are effectively in Gotham City. So if you want to see Arkham Knight, this is the pre-alpha.
Yeah.
Arkham
Knight confirmed.
Arkham Knight confirmed. The actual, and if you want to see more of these glitches, might I add, please come back and watch Robo's Arkham City run, because we are not showing all the Arkham City glitches. We're only showing the ones we won't be doing, or some of the ones that we won't be doing in a run.
Yeah, that's effectively it.
When I say we, you.
It's a team effort.
So yeah, in Origins, it launches you up and your hands would get caught inside this vent. You couldn't climb into it because your hands were inside the vent. There's nothing to grab onto. So you'd have to launch yourself upwards and then you could land straight into the tower, effectively skipping the entire process of trying to get in. But again, that's getting to Origins, and that's a different matter, and that's Origins. One thing I will define that chat is also talking about is, especially when I'll go back to that vent, just to keep it as an example, there's a big defined difference between a bug and a glitch. A glitch is generally something that is not effectively stopping you from continuing, and it's something which generally you have to go out of your way to perform, generally.
Yeah.
A bug is more something where if you try to open a door and your hand clips through the door and then it opens. Those are things where it's offering no advantage, it's not breaking the game, but it's just not working as intended. Glitches are actually something where you have to do a bit more to get them to work, and they're effectively forced versus unforced, if you want it in a real simple sentence.
Yeah, it's generally how we sort of think of it. So this one that I'm intending to do now is another one that, again, this is actually useful in 100% speedrun because it enables you to skip some of the Riddler side quests. But this is basically a glitch that is possible because there isn't a wall there. There's nothing actually just stopping you just walking through.
When they built this game, obviously, when they got to this point, they decided, oh, no one's really going to try to get through there.
Yeah.
We'll just leave it for now. It's fine for development.
Yeah. So you actually got a few things you can do here. So in a regular speedrun, which is certainly on Xbox, you can actually go under the city using the line launcher and go into the sewers area. In 100% speedrun, you can basically skip into the Riddler room. And you can actually then use, it's not really a glitch, but just a game mechanic called a water warp. And a lot of the times, that's kind of the biggest way of getting from out of bounds to inbounds, is you sort of do a water warp. Which, what it is in the context of the Arkham series, is if you jump in any kind of water, the screen fades away, Batman just reappears somewhere else because he swam there and climbed out. And luckily for us, water always extends beyond the actual walls. This is kind of a sort of sensible mechanic so that there wasn't any water gaps, I guess. But anyway, the upshot of this is this is how we discovered that the Riddler, every time you see the Riddler in one of his rooms or in the church, and the church, you can go out of bounds in the church as well, and you can see Riddler there underneath. That projector of him isn't a video, it is a model of the Riddler standing here, or in some...
Glaring.
Yeah, glaring.
But he still moves.
Yeah.
It's very,
like
it's very
he blinks
lifelike.
and everything, and if we do like big head mode, hang on, I'm going to get something that's not going to cause me to move. Hang on. There we go. Just because I don't want to walk off. I should be able to big head mode here. There we go.
Of course.
And, you know, he is an actual character, so he still big heads himself there. And this...
Can I just interrupt you there and say
Yeah.
shout outs to the developers for actually putting in a big head mode. It makes the game so enjoyable to look at.
Absolutely. And again, this is one of these examples that was basically, okay, let's just glide around randomly, see what I can do. And this is one thing that I discovered, which is completely useless, shouldn't even exist, but it does. And it's basically these things that I'm hitting on now. When in the map, they kill you. Like, you touch them, you die. Out of bounds, they just cause this called the tornado bats. And I have no idea why this should be. I can only think of because it's a rotating wall and it just gives you the rotating property.
Yeah, you get hooked on the physics of it.
Yeah. And it's just a bizarre glitch, but it's one of my favourites, partially because it's one I've actually found just randomly while thinking about with the game, but also because it's just one of those... I mean, just look at it. It's just a joy to watch.
It is ridiculous. It's
yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons that I love speedrunning so much. I love this game in particular so much because you just kind of discover these things and okay, this is never ever going to be useful in a speedrunning context, but who cares? You know what I mean?
yeah.
We've actually got a donation if you
Go for it.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, we have a
What's happening next
donation,
week?
a $20 donation from Mackin Tosser. Whoa, so glitched.
Save corruption.
So much Batman, very educated.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the donation, guys. To jump off Nimber Rip's comment, this game is so broken for a AAA title. Please go back, do yourself a favour, go back and watch. Go back and watch the Just Shan's Tomb Raider VOD from off the. It was on the other stream. It was on the Blue stream. Go back and watch his run of Tomb Raider, which is an even more recent title and is even more horribly broken than this game. Like I said, the more elements you bring into it, the more likely it is your game has something to break about it. And Tomb Raider is so broken. You spend 90% of the time out of the game. It's fantastic in a way. However, you don't skip enough that you just go from start to finish. You actually still have to be focused on what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is essentially how you get down to the sewers, as much as I mean, I noticed we started to run a little late in time, so again, like, there's loads more that City has to offer. So yeah, please check out my channel. There's loads of stuff on the YouTube as well. You know, you can find quite a lot of glitches if you ask, and a lot of it is just playing about with the game really. But we're going to move on to the final game in the franchise.
In the meantime, can we just quickly switch to the PC?
Yeah, we've got PC sound. Do you want PC video?
Yes, please.
Yes, just switch it over and we'll switch back.
I shall see if I can do that.
We're not changing resolutions as is. Yeah, as is fine.
Okay, well, thank you. Oh. Yeah, I don't know
So-
the full screen, but I should just scroll down a little bit.
Do you see the YouTube video?
I see most of it. Video input. Seeing 1080p.
So how much are you actually saying? Can you spin that monitor around?
Yeah. That's what I'm seeing.
Oh, that's enough.
Okay.
That'll do us roughly. You only need to get the rough. And someone's
it's
playing
alright.
Zelda on the phone. You only need to get a rough idea. You won't get the full idea, but it's enough to do it. So this is one called the Dead Parent Skip from Arkham City.
I'm not getting sound on it if it matters.
How about now?
I guess sounds
We
like
can live without sound.
So this is a runner called Phoenix, and he's found quite a lot of stuff, originally in Origins, and more recently in City, and a lot of it has been found basically by using the gliding mechanic that's provided to you. Like the developer, again, it's just a case of developers give you this tool, they don't expect you to be able to go this far with it, and I mean he's found skips for, in Arkham Origins, the Funhouse, the Joker's Funhouse. He's found things for skipping a whole bunch of stuff and going out of bounds to the final offer. And in Arkham City, he's now started destroying that. He's found a way to skip the little cutscene normally that you get where Batman falls to the ground right before the rage fight and he hallucinates his parents. And it is by utilising the line launcher, and he's just, I don't know exactly the ins and outs of how he does it, but he's just very, very talented and just finds a way to use the glide to get to areas that he couldn't, and it turns out that a lot of them are sort of climbable walls or ledges or stuff like that, and that's sort of how he works. And he's done quite a lot of stuff like that, really.
So can we switch back over to console, please? Well, no.
Maybe subliminally.
All right, thank you.
All right. So, one of my absolute favourite glitches that have been found was done by Phoenix in the final offer. Now we've tried to find ways to kind of like skip a load of areas to the final offer, because literally all you do is you go in, you talk to the Penguin, you leave. Oh, and you fight Deathstroke and Electrocutioner. Except we no longer need to fight Electrocutioner. No, this is wrong. Hang on. I'm in the wrong area.
It's not hot, it's just sweat. Baby sweat.
Open the window, but try to keep the curtains closed, please. Thanks.
Oh, this isn't right at all. Hang on.
No. That's not right. That's not right at all.
No, we might have the videos for this. If we just load the videos, that'll probably be easiest.
All right, so
it's not loading the saves.
we'll just do this one really quickly. Can we go back to the computer? Yeah. Well, do you want to work on the saves in the meantime?
I think it's done.
Oh well, that's Arkham Origins for you, everybody.
Yeah. There's one that I'm going to attempt to sort of bring up. But yeah, if you want to do the videos in the meantime.
Yep. I've just changed resolution, see if it does. That's better. Ooh. What resolution is that going through at? There we go. Oh, that's okay. That'll do. I can go into theatre mode. That'll do. That'll do for the sake of what we've got.
You're gonna do like the. I want to show them the final offer because that's.
Okay. Well, this one only takes a second.
Okay.
So this is one of Robo's wonderful new games to give you an idea of how fantastic this game is. This is a bug. This is not a glitch.
Yeah, there we go. That's essentially Arkham Origins for you.
Yeah, that's Arkham Origins for you. The game never actually loaded. So moving on to the next one.
So, I mean, this is sort of a compilation, really, of sort of bugs and things that have happened in the game. And again, going back to sort of the differences between bugs and glitches, this is, I guess, sort of what we'll be describing, really.
I'll just double check, make sure we've got audio speakers. So we're going to try that. No, that's the actual speakers. Yeah.
Okay, I've got the same name.
Oh, there we go.
Okay,
cool.
That fixed it.
That works.
But yeah, I mean, this is just all things that have happened in a typical speedrun, and like a lot of time, you know, if you get bugs in this, you just got to kind of roll with it, really, as it were. But there's a lot of these, and I mean, the Bane one, just like realising how broken Bane was from this actually, in a sort of roundabout way, actually led to a sort of skip in one of the Bane fights where we discovered that because his, I guess, sort of character is so broken, you can skip a hefty chunk of definitely this Bane fight.
Which is one of the final fights as well.
Yeah, simply by building up a combo and sort of just interrupting whatever he's doing. And it also led to, I guess, we've not really found a way to do this consistently, but a way to sort of skip half of this animation here and just actually find. I mean, this is, I guess, sort of a useful thing in the TM1 Bane fight because it is very random, but something that you can use to, or that we've been trying to use to kind of skip the, I guess, kind of hurting animations. And a lot of what has been found in Origins has kind of come as a result of the bugs, really, as it were. So the bugs have actually kind of helped in a way, but then they also hinder, as many of the clips will show. And then, I guess, finally, to sort of finish off, I want to show the final offer out of bounds, just because I think it's one of Phoenix's finest moments, and it kind of encapsulates at the same time just what a really good skip looks like, and I guess sort of how much of a broken mess the game Origins is, but it just sort of epitomises a lot of things for us.
Now, just before we go any further, I just want to point out that the last two there that did happen. Which were, if it's actually going to play, probably not, who cares, which was the one where it went into complete slow motion and the one where he warped in the Firefly fight. Again, bugs, hilarious ones, but bugs.
Yeah.
So, this is the one you wanted?
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want to Fierce mode it?
Oh, yep.
So this is the final offer, and what he's going to do is basically walk through the wall. The wall doesn't exist at crouching height, and it leaves you out of bounds. But basically, because Phoenix and because all the architecture in all the Batman games extends significantly past, because it's not, they don't just build like the actual game, they build kind of what you can see, and it juts out at weird angles. So it actually provides a very interesting platform game, and the Arkham series are not platformers, and they're very awkward because you can only really jump by just charging at something full pelt and hoping. But he's basically using this to like an out of bounds that's sort of almost just given to you, and using it to find a way to skip a fight called the Electrocutioner fight, which is essentially a joke fight followed by an absolutely massive brawl. And in the speedrun, because lots of little fight skips have been found, it actually got to the point where that fight was quite difficult because you didn't have a lot of upgrades or a lot of opportunities to get experience for upgrades. Whereas this kind of trivialises that now, because you no longer need to do it for that fight.
Now, the other part of building on this glitch is when you're going through, you can see that he's throwing batarangs to actually mark out where he can and can't jump onto or walk off.
Yeah, what's solid and what's not.
Effectively, so it makes sense. We're getting the whistle on behind me from Flicky to hurry up. Now, Batman's obviously cheering on, hoping those guys beat the crap out of each other. I think that's.
But I mean that's the sort of the basics of it. I mean, there's loads more on all of them, and we could go on for hours.
We could be here for hours.
We probably shouldn't. So I mean that's sort of it really. So thank you very much for watching. So what's going to happen now? Just to give you a bit of next. You're going to have a quick recap of what's been happening throughout the day. It's going to be a bit of a short one because we're going to have the Melee finals here.
Yes.
After that. That's going to go on, and then we'll bring you some actual speedrun Arkham glitches in the form of an Arkham City speedrun.
But like we said before as well, guys, this is just a couple of the Arkham games. If you go into any major game, you will be able to find at least one glitch, guaranteed, promise you. There's so few games where there's absolutely nothing. But go jump on YouTube, type in your favourite game, type in a glitch, and you'll actually probably find something about it.
Yeah.
And if you think AAA games are immune from this, no, they're probably actually the worst culprits.
They're probably the worst. Like, yeah. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. And yeah, over to you, Flicky.
Thank you very much.
All right, cool. Thank you. Right. So,
Batman.
What are you guys going to be using for Melee in terms of like systems and TVs and stuff?
They're using a PAL 60 GameCube. I've made him put up the microphone to say, Hello, Courtney, Jelsa, Makatosa, Ollie. Hello to all of you. Yes, I can see you. So chat hype.
Well, in fairness, he has wrecked the games. He's like, and we've got to give him credit for that.
Isn't Unreal Engine 3 glitchy as anyway?
Basically minus the speed of the direction you're going, so it sends you backwards. But if you're already going backwards, it just means it slowly increases the speed you're going at and
you just
ignores
go
the speed cap entirely.
incredibly quickly. Here's another video from another popular game, I guess, Ocarina of Time.
I guess, a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean,
A couple of people played it.
yeah, it's not a massive game. You might have played it or heard of it. This is a super slide, so all you need is a bomb, and you just kind of roll into it and grab it with your shield up, and you slide right across the map. It's quite useful for getting across places because it's a lot quicker than walking or any of the other methods of traveling, which I'm not going to talk about right now because there are so many. So those are movement techniques. In games, these are slightly less common in games, and they'll only generally exist in games where there's a lot of combat, but there are attacking techniques in games as well that generally make combat either quicker or easier or allow you to do it at a lower level where normally it would be ridiculously hard at that level. So here's a clip from Darksiders. This is called sword cancelling. Basically, the idea is you attack the character's called War. War attacks with a sword, but then you cancel it immediately in the attack, which allows you to attack again. So you just get these ridiculously fast successive hits in, and you can kill anything extremely quickly. It's one of the speedrun of this game is actually quite fun. I like watching it, and a lot of the enemies are done like this, just sword cancelling and getting a lot of hits in. This kind of boss, I guess you could say it's a boss, it normally takes a lot longer if you don't have sword cancelling. This is a very, very quick fight here. I think this fight ends up being a minute long when it's normally supposed to be a lot longer. Yeah. So he's dead already there. And then, so the next thing I have is a game, again, not so popular. You might have seen it, I don't know. It's called Majora's Mask. This is a trick called ISG, and it stands for Infinite Sword Glitch. And you'll see, I paused it there, you'll see that like the sword is kind of glowing white a bit. It means that the hitbox of the sword is constantly active, so it will always be attacking. And that can be useful in defeating enemies. You'll notice that these enemies just run into you and they die because of the Infinite Sword Glitch. And that's used on some bosses. Sometimes it depends. Again, I'm not going to go into where it's used and where it isn't because it's quite a complicated game in terms of strats. So far we've done sequence breaking, shortcuts, movement techniques, and attacking techniques. There's not a finite number of these categories. These are just examples that I'm picking out that are kind of common in games. Another one which kind of fits under sequence breaking, I guess, is early items or item duplication. So there is this game again. I didn't want to put them two together, but in the end I had to. It's called bottle duplication. The idea is you show this guy your bottle, and then also, if you're into speedrunning, you've probably seen a lot of glitches anyway. If you've been watching runs in this marathon, you've most likely seen glitches in them. I'm going to show you some videos now of some pretty well-known glitches that hopefully a lot of you will know. This is the first one. It's known as the swing set glitch in GTA 4, and unfortunately I haven't played all the games from the videos that I've got for you guys, but I hopefully understand most of them. So the idea is you drive a car into a swing set and it gets launched basically.
Physics.
Yeah, game physics is always fun. The next one I've got is from Super Mario Bros. You'll notice the sliding through the wall thing here and getting to this area that you're not normally supposed to go to. Now pay attention to the world. -1 is the world. which normally you're not supposed to be able to get into minus worlds. That's not something that normally happens. And the third one, I'm sure you all know this one. I'm sure many of you have seen it before. It's a classic.
It's a classic.
The long loading time.
There it is.
Level 146. Missing no. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen glitches. They've become pretty popular on the internet, and there are lots of videos of, you know, glitches that have got lots of views. But this is a speedrunning marathon, and we should probably talk about some speedrunning glitches.
Yeah,
there's
there's a lot of glitches that kind of are just fun but don't have much use for speedrunning.
But I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. First of all, I should probably mention that I'm not a speedrunner. I don't ever really speedrun. I'm a glitcher. So I find glitches which hopefully can be used in speedruns to save time. Not all of them. A lot of them don't save time in speedruns, and a few of them have kind of screwed people over in runs because they thought it'd save time. But the idea is to find glitches in the speedrunning community. The idea is to find glitches that can make runs faster or better or more entertaining. So I'll just show you an example of a glitch that's used in a way that can make you go quickly. And what better example than Sonic, I guess. So this is Sonic Unleashed, and it's relatively well known for the fact that you can just kind of fly away if you go fast enough and know how to do it.
The basic idea of this is he starts by launching himself over a trigger that limits his speed, and it just means he can, well, do this basically. This is actually an old route. There's a much faster route now, but it's still incredible. Even this one is amazing to see.
And it looks like he's back in the game properly now, and then
and that lasts a bit.
But then, man, I thought it was sooner than this.
It's just up here.
But then all of a sudden,
but then that just continues.
Yeah, just keep running higher and higher.
And then, yeah.
But
it's good stuff.
That's probably more like an hour 50, hour 45. We have for your pleasure a glitch showcase. So we're going to have this in several segments. So first of all, GlitchesAndStuff and Ryaki are going to take you through, I guess, quite a broad description of how glitches are sought, like a few things that have been found, and sort of discussion around the general glitch hunting scene strategy, as it were. Is that fair to say? Yeah. That's right. Cool. I got it right. It's brilliant. All right, good to start. That's going to go on for about sort of 50 minutes. They've got loads of stuff to show you, fantastic videos, whole really great variety of stuff. Sort of everything from massive 3D games to Sonics and Marios and all that. And then following that, we're going to have your Croc Legend Puppet Master. He's going to be joined by a few guys from the Spyro community, and they're going to take you through sort of the general glitch hunting scene in those games. And then following that, yours truly and AMVX will be taking you through some stuff in the Arkham games, which will kind of segue nicely into the next run later this evening, which will be Arkham City. So all goes in there, all goes well. So yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yes. The whole resolution itself is 720.
All right, so you guys are aware, Ryaka here has got a chat open, and he will be able to field, or they will be able to field some questions from you guys. So if you've got any sort of pertinent to glitch hunting, ask away, and obviously if it's appropriate, they'll try and add that in. So it should be good. All right. All right, so you guys good to go?
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. I'll leave you in their very capable hands. Okay. If you got a mic?
Yeah.
Even better then. So I just
Sorry.
Cool. Glitches and stuff is number 1.
Yeah, he's the one who needs it.
Alright, there you go.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay, so this is the glitching talk that was in the schedule. It's a 2-hour slot, but we've got the first 50 minutes, as Robo's already said. I guess we've got lots of videos to show, so I guess we'll kind of speed through it a bit. So, use timer if you want.
Why not? We time everything.
Let's start timer. So, first of all, this obviously is a speedrunning marathon, and this is a talk about glitches. So, you're probably wondering why that is, and one of the main reasons is because glitches and speedrunning both go together quite well.
Yeah, they're kind of synonymous at this point.
And also generic glitches and shortcuts and various techniques. I'll show you an example of sequence breaking in
Oh yeah, this is my game, Rise of the Triads. You're supposed to enter this central room and do a bunch of kind of dumb puzzles, but you could just sort of rocket launch out. Unfortunately, they patched this out, which is a shame. But yeah, you can just run along the side and ignore everything. So you've got to go and collect a bunch of keys to open this door at the back, but you just run along the side.
We don't need to complete levels in speedruns.
No.
Another one is, after this finishes, because this video is quite near the end now. So this is just goes straight to the end of the level, I guess.
Yeah.
The next video that's going to be coming up in a few seconds is something that I found in a game which not many people have played. I like to play the obscure games that not many people have played, even though I mainly do Zelda games. This is called Legend of Kay, and there's a temple here which normally requires a huge, like, saving a bunch of frog sequence in the game to do, but you can just jump behind the door when it's not open and it'll load the area that you need to go to, and that skips a massive section of the game. It's kind of funny, a glitcher called Serpin found that. He's massively underrated as a glitcher. He was just kind of messing around in the area. He hadn't done the frogs bit because he hated it and he found it really annoying and he didn't want to do it. So he just kind of jumped behind and he happened to go in, and we weren't expecting it.
That does happen a lot. I have a clip I found in Buck Bumble, and I only found it because I hated the level, and I was like, the end of this level is the door right in front of me. There must be some way to go through it, and then I just tried a bunch of dumb stuff and found a clip.
That's generally, you see something and you think, that looks interesting, that might work.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll talk more about that in a minute, how you find glitches. This is the game The Last of Us, and it skips a small section. This is an example of like a shortcut, or like a small trick. What the player did there was go onto a door which is raising up before you're supposed to be able to, and normally that door falls down so you can't climb up here, but they did it, they jumped into it at first, which allowed them to grab onto it quickly and manage to get up, and that saves a few seconds. These generally are, you see them a lot in speedruns. They're not sequence breaks because they just save a few seconds in each area, whereas sequence breaks generally skip stuff or
skip like large segments,
yeah,
entire areas or something like that.
So that's an example of a trick. There are also movement techniques, because in a speedrun you want to go quickly, obviously, if this is if you want to get a good time. So there are a few examples of movement techniques that make you go quicker. The first one's a really entertaining video in my opinion. This is Half-Life 2. This is a glitch called accelerated backhopping, I think.
Yeah,
and
it's
crazy. You kind of, I don't know too much about it, but from what I've heard, you kind of got to crouch and turn around and or something.
The way that works is the game has a way of trying to slow you down when you exceed the speed limit, and the way to do that is to basically...
That's the gist, really. So it's become quite a popular thing to watch speedruns because of the glitches that completely skip massive portions of the game and make them fast. And speaking of glitches that make you go fast, I guess, a really well-known example is in Super Mario 64. There's a glitch which I'm about to show you. It's quite a short clip, so you'll have to watch closely. It's called the backwards long jump, and you could just kind of it was quite hard to see there, but Mario just pretty much shot to the start of one of the levels ridiculously quickly. That's an example. This is from the 0-star task of the game. That's an example of how a game can just be made so short in a speedrun because of the glitches in it. I've got one more example of how a glitch could be used in a speedrun to speed it up. This is an airwalk glitch in Uncharted 2, and it pretty much allows you to skip a reasonably big chunk of this section of the game. Oh, I forgot to put the screen fade here, but so yeah, I mean, I was talking about the glitches used in speedruns because they're pretty cool, and you've probably seen them if you watched any runs in this marathon so far. But as a glitcher, I just like glitches in general, and I think a lot of other people should too, because
that's pretty much why I speedrun. If you've seen any of my games, that's a large portion of why I speedrun a game.
I mean, they're just fun to look at, they're fun to see, they're fun to do, and I don't know, sometimes when you see a glitch that's just absolutely crazy, you can't really explain it. Here's an example of a glitch called the black hole glitch in Super Smash Bros. Melee. I don't know if you can see very well, but jumping into that ball of peaches in the middle just completely destroys anything that goes inside it. Damage goes straight up to 999 for some reason. It's just crazy. And another video, it should be coming up if I've put this right. I found this one in Ocarina of Time. It's called Hookshot Mega Jump, and the idea is you die at the same time as hookshotting a high up object underwater, and he just kind of shoots up miles in the air. And he's in the dying animation as he's going up, and it takes the whole animation before he reaches the top of his fall, and you get a long fall back down. And I don't know, this is why I find glitches anyway. That it's just cool to see something like this happen in a game. Like, a lot of the time you're not expecting it either. So yeah, glitches are fun, even if they're not in speedruns. But I don't want to talk about, I mean, I know I've said this a few times already, but I want to talk more about speedrunning glitches, because I think a lot of people don't realize how glitches can fit into the speedrunning community. I think they see speedruns and they kind of just assume, or don't even really think about where the glitches have come from in the speedruns. So there are a few different words we use for the different kinds of glitches in speedruns. You've probably heard them if you've been around in the speedrunning scene for a while. There's things called sequence breaks. We have stuff called tricks, and there are other